Dave Parker didn't just waste his career with drug abuse, his salary disputes played a big role too. He fought to be paid like the star he was, but in an era when owners resisted big contracts, it made him enemies. Add in his drug troubles, and some believe that's why the Hall of Fame never came calling. Parker's downfall wasn't sudden. It was a slow, painful decline that played out in front of the baseball world. In the early 1980s, injuries started to take their toll, his weight became an issue, and worst of all, he got caught up in baseball's biggest drug scandal. At the height of his career, he was one of the most feared hitters in baseball. Pitchers dreaded facing him, and fans packed stadiums just to watch him swing. He had power, skill, and a presence that made him stand out. But then everything changed. He admitted to using cocaine and was called to testify in the infamous Pittsburgh drug trials. The revelation shocked the baseball world. Though he avoided prosecution, the damage was already done. His once spotless reputation took a massive hit, and suddenly teams and fans saw him in a different light. Sponsors who once lined up to work with him began pulling away, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. Front offices grew hesitant, unsure if he was worth the risk. The media, which had once praised him, now questioned his commitment and character. His name, once a symbol of greatness, became linked to controversy. Though he still had talent, the shine of his superstar status faded fast. The calls from teams became less frequent, and the respect he had earned over the years started to slip away. But if drug troubles weren't enough, he also had money working against him. He had signed a huge contract, one of the biggest at the time, and with big money came big expectations. When his numbers dipped, the fans turned on him in an instant. He wasn't just criticized, he was targeted. The same people who once cheered his name now showered him with booze every time he stepped onto the field. In Pittsburgh, it got ugly fast. Batteries, bottles, and anything else within reach rained down from the stands as if he had personally betrayed the city. It didn't matter that he was battling through injuries or that even on a bad day, he was still one of the most dangerous hitters in the game. His contract was too big. His past mistakes were too fresh in people's minds. To them, he wasn't a player giving everything he had. He was an overpaid disappointment. He had seen teammates go from heroes to outcasts overnight. He had watched how the media twisted stories and how owners quietly distanced themselves when things got tough. Now it was happening to him. The roar of the crowd, once a source of energy, had become a wall of hostility. No matter how hard he played or how much pain he played through, the city had made up its mind. And then there was Parker's personality. They didn't call him Cobra for nothing. He was fierce, confident, and carried himself like an enforcer. Some teammates saw him as a leader, the kind of player who pushed everyone around him to be better. He demanded effort, expected toughness, and never accepted excuses. To those who shared his mindset, he was an inspiration, someone who refused to settle for anything less than winning. They respected his intensity and fed off his competitive fire. Others saw him differently. To them, he was abrasive, intimidating, and too intense. He had little patience for mistakes and wasn't afraid to call people out, no matter who they were. He could be blunt, sometimes harsh, and he didn't sugarcoat his words. If a teammate wasn't pulling their weight, he made sure they knew it. He never backed down from a confrontation, even when it was with his own team. Whether it was in the clubhouse, on the field, or even during practice, he wasn't afraid to speak his mind. Some appreciated his honesty, others resented it. When you add that to a reputation already weighed down by drug use and controversy, it's easy to see why he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. For all his talent, including an MVP award, batting titles, and a powerful arm in right field, he never got the recognition many believe he deserved. His career numbers were strong enough for the Hall of Fame. He had the stats, the awards, and the impact on the game that most players could only dream of. On paper, he belonged among the legends. But baseball isn't just about numbers. No matter how much time passed, his past never stopped haunting him. Some say the drug scandal was the final blow, the thing that sealed his fate and kept him from ever getting serious consideration. Others believe it was more than that. His fiery attitude, his history of contract disputes, and the way he clashed with management made him too controversial for some voters. He was never the type to play politics or smooth things over. If he had a problem, he made it known. It's wild how someone can put up great numbers and have a solid career, but the drama and a bad attitude can totally wipe all that away. It all began in 1973 when Parker was tearing up the minor leagues as a member of the Charleston Charlies, the AAA affiliate of the Pittsburgh Pirates. That year, a story began to circulate that he had crushed a home run so hard, the ball landed on a passing coal train and was later found all the way in Columbus, Ohio. It became one of those baseball tall tales that fans love to repeat, but years later, he himself set the record straight, saying that while he did try to hit balls onto moving trains, he never quite managed to pull it off. Even so, the legend stuck, and in many ways it fit the kind of player Parker would become. A player with a swing that could shake a stadium. That same year, on July 12th, he made his major league debut with the Pittsburgh Pirates, the team he would play for over the next decade. By 1975, he had secured a full-time role in the lineup and wasted no time proving he belonged. That season, he led the National League in slugging percentage and finished third in MVP voting. Just 2 years later, in 1977, he won his first batting title, and in 1978, he not only won another, but also claimed the National League MVP award. That season, however, wasn't without its challenges. On June 30th, he suffered a brutal collision at home plate with Mets catcher John Stearns, fracturing his jaw and cheekbone. For most players, that kind of injury would mean an extended stay on the injured list. But Parker wasn't like most players. Determined not to sit out, he wore a specially designed face mask and kept playing, refusing to let an injury slow him down. By this point, he was the face of the Pirates, and the team rewarded him accordingly. In 1979, he signed a record-breaking contract, becoming the first player in Major League history to earn $1 million per year. That same season, he played a key role in leading the Pirates to a World Series championship. It was the peak of his career. He was one of the best players in baseball, a dominant hitter, a cannon-arm right fielder, and a leader on a championship team. He even had a moment straight out of a baseball movie when he quite literally knocked the cover off the ball. During a game that season, Parker hit a ball so hard that the seam split and nearly half of the cover came loose before the ball even reached the infield. It was a moment that left players and fans in shock. But as much as Parker was admired for his talent, he also made enemies, especially among Pittsburgh fans. That $1 million contract, it didn't sit well with everyone. When his numbers dipped, fans turned on him fast. They didn't just boo him, they threw objects at him: batteries, nuts, bolts, even bullets. According to his teammate Kent Tekulve, the anger toward Parker was so extreme that it became dangerous. At one point, a typo in a news article even led some people to believe fans had thrown entire car batteries at him. Whether that part was true or not, it was clear that Parker had become a lightning rod for criticism, and his once adoring fan base now saw him as overpaid and underperforming. Still, his talent was undeniable. In 1981, when he was still in his prime, baseball historians Lawrence Ritter and Donald Hoenig included Parker in their book, The 100 Greatest Baseball Players of All Time. The authors noted that he took over in right field after the legendary Roberto Clemente, as if fate had chosen him for greatness. Parker seemed to believe it too, playing with confidence, swagger, and a strong desire to dominate the game. But as the 1980s rolled in, his career took a turn. Injuries started slowing him down. His weight became an issue. And most damaging of all, he got caught up in baseball's growing drug problem. Cocaine use had spread through the major leagues, and Parker became one of the central figures in the scandal that rocked the sport. For a player who once seemed destined to go down as one of baseball's all-time greats, the future suddenly didn't look as bright. Parker's career took another turn at the end of the 1983 season. After a decade with the Pittsburgh Pirates, he became a free agent and signed with the Cincinnati Reds, returning to his hometown to revive his career. For many players, switching teams after so many years can be tough, but for him it was a fresh start, one he desperately needed after the turbulence of his final years in Pittsburgh. And what a fresh start it was. Parker didn't just play well in Cincinnati, he looked like the superstar he had been in his prime. It was as if he had shaken off the weight of his past struggles and found his old self again. By 1985, he was absolutely dominant. That season, he hit 312 with 34 home runs and led the National League in RBIs with 125. He also topped the league in doubles, extra base hits, and total bases. It was the kind of performance that reminded everyone just how talented he was. He even came close to winning his second MVP award, but finished second behind Willie McGee. Still, his resurgence put him back in the spotlight in the best way possible. To top it off, he made history in 1985 by winning Major League Baseball's first ever home run derby. It was fitting for a player with such legendary power, a slugger who once hit a ball so hard it nearly ripped the cover off. Fans were seeing vintage Dave Parker again, and for a while it looked like he was back on track for a Hall of Fame career. But just as things were looking up, his past caught up with him. That same year, he was called to testify in the Pittsburgh drug trials, one of the darkest scandals in Major League Baseball history. Along with several other players, he was named as a regular user of cocaine. The fallout was immediate. MLB suspended Parker and 6 others for the following season, a punishment that could have ended his career right there. However, the league later agreed to commute their sentences in exchange for specific conditions. Parker had to donate 10% of his salary to drug-related community programs, submit to random drug testing, and complete 100 hours of community service focused on drug awareness. While he avoided a lengthy suspension, the damage to his reputation was significant. Even though he had turned his game around, the drug scandal left a permanent mark on how people viewed him. Instead of just being known for his powerful swing, rocket arm, and clutch performances, Parker was now a symbol of the league's drug problem. Despite the controversy, he kept playing at a high level. But after the 1987 season, the Reds decided to trade him to the Oakland Athletics in exchange for young pitchers Jose Rijo and Tim Burtzis. For Parker, it was another big change, but in many ways, it was the perfect move at that stage in his career. In Oakland, he was able to transition into more of a veteran leadership role, spending most of his time as a designated hitter rather than an everyday outfielder. His numbers weren't as dominant as they once were. He hit just .257 with 12 home runs in 1988, but his experience and presence in the clubhouse were invaluable to a young, talented A's team. Oakland made back-to-back World Series appearances in 1988 and 1989, and while Parker wasn't the star of the show, he played a key role in their success. In 1989, exactly a decade after winning his first championship with the Pirates, he won his second ring as the A's defeated the San Francisco Giants in the World Series. It was a fitting full-circle moment for a player whose career had seen some very dramatic lows. After 2 seasons in Oakland, Parker wasn't ready to retire just yet. In 1990, he signed with the Milwaukee Brewers, once again proving that he still had something left in the tank. At 39 years old, he put together another solid season, hitting .289 with 21 home runs as the team's designated hitter. His performance was strong enough to earn him a spot as a reserve in the 1990 All-Star Game, an impressive feat considering how long he had been in the league and the obstacles he had overcome. But baseball is a young man's game, and by the end of the year, Milwaukee decided to go in a different direction. Rather than keeping the aging Parker, they traded him to the California Angels in exchange for Dante Bichette. Parker's final season in the big leagues came in 1991. He started the year with the Angels but was released late in the season. Even so, his career wasn't quite over yet. The Toronto Blue Jays, looking to add depth for their playoff push, signed Parker as insurance. Despite limited playing time, he made the most of his opportunity, hitting .333 in the final stretch of the season. Unfortunately, since he was acquired so late, Parker wasn't eligible to play in the postseason. He could only watch from the sidelines as the Blue Jays battled the Minnesota Twins in the American League Championship Series. Toronto ended up losing in 5 games, and with that, Parker's career quietly came to an end. After 19 seasons in the majors, Parker retired from professional baseball. His career was nothing but extraordinary, filled with triumphs and controversies. He was a 7-time All-Star, an MVP, a 2-time batting champion, a 2-time World Series champion, and one of the most feared hitters of his generation. But despite his impressive resume, his Hall of Fame case remained complicated. For some, his numbers alone should have made him a lock. For others, his involvement in the drug scandal and reputation as a controversial figure kept him from getting the honor. Parker's influence on baseball didn't stop when he played his last game. Even after retiring from the sport, he remained deeply connected to the game, passing on his knowledge and passion to future generations. He didn't just fade into the background like so many former players do. Instead, he found new ways to stay involved, proving that his love for baseball went beyond just playing. For starters, Parker took on coaching roles to help younger players refine their skills. He served as a first base coach for the Anaheim Angels, bringing his wealth of experience and keen eye for the game to the dugout. In 1998, he became a batting coach for the St. Louis Cardinals, working with hitters to improve their swings and approaches at the plate. Later, he returned to Pittsburgh, the city where he first became a star, to work as a special hitting instructor for the Pirates. He had come full circle, now teaching players in the very organization where he made his name. But baseball wasn't the only thing Parker was involved in after his playing days. He also had a successful business career. For 25 years, he owned and operated several Popeyes chicken franchises in his hometown of Cincinnati. It was a new challenge, far different from stepping up to the plate or making a game-saving catch. But he approached it with the same determination that had made him a star on the field. He was hands-on, making sure things ran smoothly and that customers got the best service possible. He understood the importance of building a strong team, just like in baseball. He hired the right people, treated his employees with respect, and worked to create an environment where everyone felt valued. Over the years, his business has thrived. Through economic ups and downs, through challenges big and small, he never backed down. He took pride in what he had built, knowing that few athletes managed to transition so smoothly into the business world. But after a quarter century of hard work, he was ready for a new chapter. In 2012, he decided to sell his interest in the franchises, closing that part of his life after 25 years of dedication. It was another accomplishment in a lifetime full of them. Just like in baseball, he had faced challenges, put in the work, and come out successful. And while his days as a business owner were over, his legacy as both an athlete and an entrepreneur remained strong. However, not all of his post-baseball years were easy. The physical toll of nearly 2 decades in the major leagues caught up to him. The wear and tear from all those years on the field took a serious toll on his body. His knees in particular took the worst of it. Decades of stress, countless sudden stops, and the constant strain of playing at the highest level left them battered and worn down. At first, he tried to push through the pain. He had played through injuries before, and he wasn't the type to complain. But as the years passed, even the simplest movements became difficult. The same legs that once carried him to stolen bases now struggled with everyday tasks. Eventually, there was no avoiding it. He had to undergo knee replacement surgery on both knees. It was a difficult process, filled with pain and long months of recovery. The surgeries were a harsh reminder of just how much he had sacrificed for the game he loved. Then in 2013, he received another tough blow. He confirmed to the Pittsburgh Tribune-Review that he had been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a progressive neurological disorder that affects movement and coordination. It was a heartbreaking revelation. Parkinson's disease was a battle he never expected, a fight far different from anything he had faced on the baseball field. The news could have broken him. He could have stepped away from the spotlight, quietly dealing with the illness in private. But that wasn't who he was. Instead of retreating into the shadows, he decided to take action. He knew there were others out there struggling with the same disease, people who didn't have the resources or the platform he had. He wanted to help. He wanted to make a difference. That's why he founded the Dave Parker 39 Foundation, an organization dedicated to raising money for Parkinson's research and supporting those affected by the disease. Through the foundation, he became a voice for others, spreading awareness and pushing for better treatments. He met with doctors, spoke at events, and worked to make sure people battling Parkinson's didn't feel alone. Just like on the field, he led by example, showing strength even in the face of adversity. While the Baseball Hall of Fame had long overlooked Parker, his impact on the game didn't go unrecognized. In 2012, he was inducted into the Cincinnati Public Schools Athletic Hall of Fame, a testament to his athletic greatness dating back to his high school days. Then in 2014, he received an even bigger honor when he was inducted into the Reds Hall of Fame, joining fellow Cincinnati legends Ron Ooster and Ken Griffey Jr. It was a proud moment as he was finally getting the recognition he deserved in his hometown. But the honors didn't stop there. On September 3, 2022, he was inducted into the Pittsburgh Pirates Hall of Fame as part of its inaugural class. It was a moment of redemption, a long overdue acknowledgement of his place in Pirates history. He had been one of the team's greatest players, a World Series hero, and a two-time batting champion. Now the franchise had officially cemented his legacy, ensuring that future generations of Pirates fans would know the name Dave Parker. And then in December 2024 came the moment that so many had been waiting for. Parker appeared on the Classic Baseball Era Committee's 2025 ballot, a special committee that evaluates players who may have been unfairly overlooked by the Baseball Writers Association of America. This time, there was no snubbing, no debate. He was elected with a resounding 87.5% of the vote. Finally, after years of waiting, he would take his rightful place among the legends of the game. From his early days crushing home runs to becoming a two-time batting champion in the 1978 NL MVP, he was one of the most feared hitters of his era. His powerful swing, rocket arm, and confident swagger made him stand out in every game he played. But his career wasn't without controversy. His record-breaking contract made him a target for criticism, and his involvement in the Pittsburgh drug trials cast a long shadow over his legacy. Despite the setbacks, he battled back, winning another World Series with Oakland and proving his greatness on the field. Off the field, he continued to make an impact through coaching, business ventures, and later his fight against Parkinson's disease. He never backed down from a challenge, showing the same determination in life that he did in baseball. Though the Hall of Fame recognition took far too long, his 2025 induction finally secured his place among the game's immortals. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.